Hey guys, I'm Tim.
I'm Bob.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Dan.
And this is the Board Game Rundown. Today we are going to review Beyond the Sun. This is a game designed, his only game, right, Mike?
The only game he's designed.
Only game. Dennis Chan. This is made by Rio Grande Games. 2 to 4 players, 100 minutes. Says 14 and up, if that sort of thing matters to you. Anyways, Beyond the Sun. I've heard it called Tech Tree the Game.
Yeah.
It is.
Spoiler alert! It's Tech Tree the game. So we are in this. We are basically doing action selection to clear off pieces of our player boards, moving them around. They're coming off and on. The die represent worker types essentially, whether it's military or like colonists or workers. And we are selecting actions, which will then allow us to like invent new technologies. And they're over there. Basically new technologies or to move around on this spaceport here where we're colonizing different planets and everything like that. And one of the really interesting things is all of the techs come out of different decks for the different tiers.
Like tier 2, tier 3.
And so depending on the color, you are going to be looking for that color technology. But then the person who is the one to discover the first new one, you are going to get to pick out of 2.
Right.
So you're going to obviously pick something that would benefit your game or the direction you're trying to go if possible, which then also, though, gives you like loads of replayability and just changes dynamically every time, right? Because even if you see the same text, they may come out in different spots because like a true tech tree, sometimes you have to have prerequisite text and not like specifically like, oh, I've got to have advanced robotics before I can do something, but I have to have the spot that advanced robotics is in to be able to research some of these other texts.
Yep.
You guys have played it a lot more than me. I got to play a very robust, full game. I was really impressed with how fast.
Like it's simple. It's kind of complicated, but it's so simple and it's action taking.
I should point out your first game probably won't be that fast. There's a lot of reading, a lot of following the text and how it works and stuff like that, and trying to figure out how to take advantage of your asymmetric power best if you're playing advanced mode.
But learning.
Yes, but what I was saying is with 3 of us having played before and teaching you, with I would say with 1, maybe 2 people knowing how to play, the game will go pretty fast, like what you're saying.
Yeah, you can keep it moving.
And it's not overly complicated, but there's so many meaningful decisions, right? So I hate to call the game simple or easy, but it is kind of easy to learn.
Yeah, I would say it's easy because it's like you take an action, you do your production, and if you have an achievement, you can claim it, and that's all you do for your turn.
Right, and some actions will slightly domino effect multiple
that
actions.
triggers this, this, but
for the most part,
yeah, because in a way, right, with the text, you are engine building
a little
essentially. Not a ton, not like. I always wanted to be able to do more stuff.
Sure.
But that's okay, because it leave them wanting more, right?
I've been fighting the urge to call this game elegant because when you look at it, you're like, okay, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, what a
here.
mess.
But the fact is that when you actually start playing it, you realize it's very simple to learn. All of the iconography is very straightforward. All of the text, like you always pick 2 texts when you research one, so you got this great option or this like pretty good option, and they're very straightforward. I didn't have to nobody's going back to the book and double checking like, okay, well, what does this mean? It is very straightforward all the way down to the tier 4 text.
Which leads to a couple things. I think that one of the things that it leads to, because it does look complicated, is it really is, at the end of the day, other than a resource management game, just a worker placement game, right? Like, all you're doing on your turn is you're picking a location. All these pieces out here that look really confusing is just that if I take a level 1 tech right here, I take one of my guys for my supply, and I put it at that tech. All these are doing is marking that we have researched those techs. That's all this is. So you'll see that this one needs both techs touching it. So in order for me to put a blue guy here, I have to blue guy here and here. Like that's all this is marking, right? And then some of them do open up more worker placement spots. But like that's most of the game. Then it's just controlling your resource management over here on your board, which also isn't that complicated. I think the hardest part of the game I'll go into a little later, and that's a personal thing for me, is just remembering how the stacked production rule works, and we'll go into that. But yeah, I think that's part of it, is just that at the end of the day, while it looks kind of complicated and all this stuff, it's a worker placement game that's honestly more simple than some of the other worker placement games you've played. It just looks intense, and that's because it's Tech Tree the game. A Tech Tree looks intimidating, like when you look at it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of opens up as you go. You're starting with these level 1s, and they do kind of basic actions. Then you research, too, and you're like, ooh, I got even cooler stuff that I can do. And it really just kind of builds and gets more intense and more useful as you go along.
I would say the fact that it basically starts on that side of the board with just those 4 techs, and then it builds from there makes it, you're not being overwhelmed at the beginning with a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah,
it's just
lots
you start
of
simple, and it gets more complicated.
Lots of
after that.
replayability, too, with all the different techs coming out and different positions, different orders, and all that. Which leads into my biggest positive of the game, which I will also go into later, maybe in final thoughts. But we should also explain this board.
Yeah. So the other thing you're doing besides taking the actions over here is you'll create these ships, and you can place them in Sol anytime, or if you control one of these shipyard systems, you can place your ship there.
Because there's an icon that
Correct,
basically
there's a little
tells you
icon
that there's
tells
a
you, and it says right
shipyard.
on there, shipyard system.
Yeah.
But then when you do the jump actions that you gain from some of the techs, you'll be able to jump from planet to planet, and you're going to try to colonize those planets to help you gain more resources and things like that. And that is a whole other thing, too, with some of the end game things, is colonize a certain number of planets. And you get victory points from those. They give you one-time abilities when you do them. Yeah.
When you take control of a planet, so like this guy has a 2 here and no one else is there, they get to take one of the matching icons
I'm gonna just
and
pull
put
out
it there. So not only is that a thematic thing of you kind of building a production
outpost,
base,
yeah.
an outpost on that planet, but then because you have an outpost over there, it increases your production, which is something you want, right? Is to get rid of these, whether it's over there or up here. You're trying to get rid of these so you can produce more on your turn. And then if someone else with a higher ship flies through, it was on a 3, it was perfect, and flies through here, they now take control of this planet, and you lose your outpost. And because you lose your outpost on that planet, your production goes down, which again thematically makes the
sense.
rule easier to understand, right? The theming in here with how it helps with the rule set is very nice. It helps a lot.
It works the way you think it would.
Right.
Yeah.
For like
Yeah.
99% of
And
the game. It
that's
works
one
the
of
way
my
you think it
favorite things in a game.
Yeah.
It works the way you think it
Yeah.
should.
I would think it would do this. You're like, it does.
Oh, it does. I just when you can sit down and even learn or teach an intuitive game, it just makes life so much easier. I was taught this. I'm not a big like, oh hey, let me check the rule book guy. But sometimes I just want to check something
we
for
know.
myself, right? It was so awesome because every once in a while, like I just ask a question, oh, how do I terraform again? Or how do I do this? It's real easy, right? It's like, oh, you got to go to this spot or this
that
spot.
action there or that action there.
So like it was very basic and easy for them to hopefully teach. And but like just to learn, like I never needed the rule book. So how is the rule book? Like
It's actually
to learn if
pretty
you're going to
good.
learn out of it.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, I was taught the game, but as I've gone through and like redoubled, because it was a while since from my initial learn to teaching it again, so I refreshed, and it's really nice. Like I actually made a couple copies of like the turn overview to hand out to people.
Oh
but
yeah,
they
that's
didn't
funny
really-
that you made those, and then Dan goes, "You won't need those."
Yeah,
and he
Which
was
is
right
true.
though. Yeah,
you-
he was
you
right.
really didn't, because they do come with like little player aids, which are super nice.
Very nice.
On one
I don't
side,
even know that I looked at that thing.
Yeah,
either.
well, it's because there's only the 3 things that you do on your turn. Right?
And it's really
Honestly.
just there for the iconography.
Yeah, the iconography, it tells you the technology guide. It gives you the steps when you want to colonize one of the planets. And on the backside, it tells you everything that's worth victory points and how many points it's going to be worth. So it's super handy. I like those. The only thing I would say downfall is it didn't come with its own kind of like a
Score
pad of
pad?
paper. Yeah, score pad of any
Weird,
sort.
weird. Yeah, I'm
little
sure
weird,
that people
but-
have made nice ones on BGG
Sure.
and stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to look on there to
weird.
try to.
But that's weird that that's your biggest complaint about
Yeah,
the game.
that's my biggest complaint. Is like,
It's like, oh, they didn't give me a score
Yeah,
pad.
because it's a game that scores in
5.
the way a score pad would.
Yeah.
That is weird. I guess the last thing that so really quick, these 4 spots actually start blocked in the worker placement game, and there are going to be so before you research the text in 2 and 3, these blue cards are like events. So if you research this, you flip it over, you get to do whatever that event is. It might affect more than it might affect other people. Usually it's going to benefit you. And then
2
the
of them.
texts come out, which we explained earlier, where you get the 2 texts that match the color and pick one and that. But 2 of these mixed in, as a matter of fact,
That's one of
one of them, because it has this light blue line on it, is going to say unlock one of the 2. So in tier 2 text, you're going to unlock one of these. You get to choose, then the other one will be in there too, and that will unlock that. And then in tier 3, these unlock. So again, just thematically, as you're unlocking more tech, you are getting better things you can do on your turn, right? It makes sense, and giving you the option of the order they unlock is nice. And then the last thing we should describe is how endgame works. People are going to
Yeah.
want to know, how do you win?
Yeah. So each game, there's 2 of these that are always pulled out: the Empire and the Transcendence.
You'll notice that Dan and I have a lot of stars over here.
Pay no attention to that. It's irrelevant. We just put it up for thematic kind of.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's what that was.
But what they are is just kind of end game conditions, right? So like one of them is like research your first level 4, colonize 4 systems, things like that. So those 2 are always in there. Then there's a stack of A cards and a stack of B cards. You'll choose 2 at random from each one. They come out here and give you other opportunities to try to end the game and earn end game points. And then with a 4-player game, once there are at least 4 stars on there, that's going to trigger end game.
I thought it was 3 stars. Oh, 4 stars total.
4 stars total. It doesn't have to be from one person, just 4 stars total. You'll finish that round and then do one more complete round, and then that'll be the end of the game. And then you're just going to do the little thing on the back here and total up all of your points, and whoever has the most is going to win.
Yep.
Yeah. The only other.
It's important to note that as an action at the end of your turn, you have to claim an achievement.
Yes.
So don't forget to do that because
very important.
you only get to claim 1 per turn. So if you forget to claim it and then someone else claims it, I mean, you can claim most achievements then the following turn, but you will get less points for it because they
Correct.
And
beat you
sometimes
there.
it's limited number of spots and how many
Correct.
you can
Yeah, depending on
commit.
player count. Yeah.
Correct.
So one last thing we'll go before we get into final thoughts.
That's what all that means. Is
Is
that what
the,
you're
the dual layered player boards here,
Yeah.
I think
which
you have to
obviously
put
Bob
it
loves.
on the board for it to be visible.
It's not visible, yeah.
So, well, I'll get
Yeah,
into
this
it.
is
I'll
the
just get
crux
into
of
it.
the game.
So this is you've got this represents your food. This represents what production
Yep.
Well, they're both
or
production.
or
Yeah.
production versus population growth.
Yeah.
So the interesting and Dan was going to talk about this a little bit because this was like the confusing thing or could be confusing. I don't think it's overly like not detrimental, but it's just
That's important.
It's just something you've got to consider. So you've got all these different columns, and right now they're all like basically locked chests, which just mean that when you pull this off of this slot, you are going to turn it either into a worker or a military, which is the jet side. Anyways, so the interesting thing is when you are going to gain income, right? You're either going to choose your population growth or your ore production, and out of that, you're going to pull what you have showing. Now, with population growth, it's a little tricky, not in a bad way. You just got to pay attention. So you would pull from the column that your bonus
That's available.
figure is
It's
from,
showing.
right?
Mhm.
So if I don't have any in column C or B, and I did population growth, I would only be able to draw 1 from column A, which would then give me this dude right here, right? Which maybe that's enough because I don't need any more ore, right? Now, ore, you can always get ore. There's nothing to stop you from getting ore. You're just going to get what is showing.
Right.
And then when, there will be things that happen in the game that your chests are going to go back. You always pull from the left and you replace from the right, which makes, again, works like you think it would, right? Now, in an asymmetric power, which I had things where I got benefits for clearing certain columns or, getting columns cleared out.
Emptied, yeah.
And so that was cool because I was actually able to get those to trigger, in the last round of the game, which helped. I mean, I was not going to catch Dan, but it definitely gave me a little bit of breathing room, between Mike and I, as far as like second and third place goes. But anyways, just really neat. And then, there's obviously achievements we had achievements in this for like clearing out at least one of your production columns, which is always a possibility. So anyways,
Give you a break.
yeah, no, it was really neat. Like at first I looked at it and it all just looked like gobbledygook to me.
Sure.
And then after 3 minutes of teaching, if that even, it's like, oh no, this makes a lot of sense. If you've played similar games, right? Like Scythe, where you're uncovering things
Yeah,
and
because
revealing
all
options.
these guys here are going to start with all these covered, and then as you unlock them, you'll increase
and
your
the,
production.
and
stuff
so
like
that's
that.
the other thing, right? The ways you can pull these off, right, is by going and exploring the planets,
Yep.
which then have an icon. The planets have an icon, so you would pull from that specific one. Like that's got the wrong one on it, haha. But
Yeah, pieces were slid around.
yeah. But anyways, but those can come back, right? And so you lose that production, like Dan was saying. But if you've got the automate thing, which we had in our game, you could then it comes up here, it's automated and it's permanently there,
Right.
And it's victory points at the end.
and it's victory points at the end. And I made sure to ask, like, is there anything wrong with automating as much stuff as possible? And it's like, absolutely not.
No,
Automate all
because
you can.
even if you fill up the row, they just start stacking up at the end here and are still worth points.
Yeah, Dan
So-
did that.
Dan did
Hey,
that.
do you want to slide that in?
No, that's
it's
terrible.
fine.
You don't want to slide that?
Even-
we don't
no.
have to see it.
That
They can
beautiful
see it on this
board?
ca- They can see it on this camera over here.
Yeah.
It's a pretty nice board over there.
Yeah.
Oh, it fell.
Oh.
So you know what? I want to do that in final thoughts. So let's talk about how we rate it. Huh?
All
Is that
right.
what we're gonna do?
Yeah.
Let's do that. What's in the box? Daniel,
Me?
how do we rate this?
I've never explained this before. So here at Board Game Rundown, we're just going to rate it from 1 to 10, and we do use 0.5s because it just gives us some more variety when we're rating it. And we're just going to give our own opinion on it because if you agree with, well, I was going to say Bob, but that's an impossibility. If you agree with like Tim more than anyone else, then you might rely on his score more.
Ooh,
but then at
sorry.
the end, for simplification purposes, we will average them all together so that we have one score that we put on BGG, Discord when people ask us scores like that. Now, because we have 4 people averaging scores all the time, that does mean our averages are going to fall around 7 a lot because that's the
How
law of
averages.
averages. You know? But you're still going to get all our individual scores at the same time. So that's how we
That's
do it.
it. That's it. Mike, I want to know.
You want
what-
my reading
I
first?
want your rating first.
So, okay, first of all, first time designer Dennis Chan, only game he's ever created. Wow.
Knocked
I
out of
mean,
the park.
Nailed it.
like, didn't go small, went straight into Tech Tree, the
You went-
game.
Beyond the sun.
You-
Sorry.
well, this review's done. there's nothing left to accomplish.
I'm super impressed with this game. I will never shy away from games that have a lot of rules and are heavy. But I really appreciate a game that looks like it has a ton going on and simplifies it into a very palatable rule set, which this game does extremely well.
Agreed.
I looked at this game. I thought it was going to be too much. And 2 rounds in, I know how to play. I don't have to reference the rule book. And I've already formed a strategy of here's what I want to try. 2 games in, I tried 2 different strategies.
Neither one.
There's a ton. Neither one worked. There's lots of different. As far as replayability goes, there's 4 different asymmetric factions you can use that push you in different directions. You've got multiple texts that can come out that we haven't all seen, and of course they can come out in different patterns. I kind of feel like you've got a little bit of engine building going on with your player board here because you've got to generate some guys. You got to use your guys to generate ships. You got to use ore to buy your techs. So it kind of feels like there's multiple mini games going on in a sense, but that works. It doesn't feel like disconnected parts at all. And I feel like the game progresses as I go on, which was huge for engine building. Like I'm starting with something very simple and now I'm able to produce 5 ore on my turn, or I'm able to produce 6 guys on my turn. Like it's very gratifying when you get those things all kind of popping at once.
Right.
And it builds as you go, as you get those better techs and you're able to do basic actions more efficiently or more powerfully. It just has a really good flow as you go through. Our second game played really fast.
Yeah.
Even with a teach, we were under less than an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Easily. We might have been closer to an hour, which is impressive for how much game there is in that playtime. So for me, I debated. I was at least an 8 after our first play. After a second play, I'm an 8.5. I think this is a really solid game. I'm really impressed with it. It's easy to play. It's fulfilling. It builds as you go. And it's a game I'd want to go out and put in my collection, no question. So it's an 8.5 for me.
It's a nice thin box too, so it slides into
Right.
weird spots on your shelf.
Yeah.
I want to jump on that a little bit because my memory's so bad, and I just want to say I just think it's funny and it's really cool that this Dennis guy, whoever he thinks he is, he took everything that you just said there, right? He wanted a game that starts off slow and it builds. He wanted this game that kind of felt like an engine building game, but also multiple people can jump on your engine, right? As you're building it, you can reveal something and they can go to it, right? And stuff like that. It has this progression system here with the automation, as the asymmetric powers. It has all these things that you're mentioning about, you keep saying it gets better as it goes, and all those fall under worker placement and resource management and all this stuff. And it's just funny to me that what he did was he took all those ideas and he's like, no one's ever said this before. All those things describe a tech tree. I'm going to make a tech tree. right? And somehow he was able to fit every idea you just said into the bone structure of a tech tree, and it defined it. You know, like it was a genius way that he did that, and I just wanted to mention that because everything you said describes what a tech tree is, and no one's ever said that before. I think
The tech tree is like the skeleton that holds all those mini games together very well.
right.
So, Bob, was this the one that you were looking for like a long time? Was really expensive on the secondary market. You walked out like on the in the store shelf, like looked out on the store shelf and found it, and didn't pay an exorbitant price, and
Yes.
paid retail
I
for
did.
this
Yep.
game.
Yeah.
That clearly I have a feeling, because I'm going to ask you your thoughts right now, that you were very happy with.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so what do you think?
yeah. I really like this game. I was taught it at one of our Julia cons.
Yeah, right
By
on.
some friends of ours, and I loved it. Right, dual layer player boards, gotta love that. I love tech trees. It's one of my favorite parts about the Civilization games are tech trees. I love that. I love how thematic they are. Right, so you can like start doing like human experiments, and then you've got like all types of like what was it, metahuman chambers, and like
We'll leave that to you.
Yeah, but just the way they thematically like the text like evolve too, like just and like the colors and whatnot. Like, oh, I have a green and a red tech, and they're gonna merge, and then it's gonna be either military or it's gonna go for growth. And so you're you blend those things together. Oh, it's blue and science, and it's yellow and like research or like money and stuff like that. So just the thematic way that it links the different texts together, and how like while yes you're researching a level 3, it has to have the kind of attributes from the previous text that you're researching from. And I think that's a really
And
good
they
way
all,
to do
like,
that.
from what I've seen, they all make sense, right?
Yeah.
Advanced robotics, Android surveyors,
yeah.
hive mind computing,
Yeah.
parallel universe generator. You're not doing that without a hive mind computing.
Exactly.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and I really, really enjoy this game. I mean, it's the proper size rule book, so it gets that, that
It is kind
bump.
of an odd size. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was debating between an 8.5 and a 9, and I think I'm going to give it the 9 because there's just so much I
Nice.
really enjoy about this game. I love playing it. I'm glad I finally got to teach you guys how to play because like I've talked about it a lot. It's been a couple of years since I've gotten the game, and wow. I mean, I love it. I just like the exploring the space, the researching the text, worker placement's so great. The automating, and I was a little disappointed with my asymmetrical power because I never got to get it to proc, but that could be more of a me thing.
I'm
But
sure it had nothing to do with you not playing optimally.
probably, yeah, you're probably right. I'm gonna give it the I'm gonna
The
give it a
old
9.
the old 9.
Yeah, I like it
Daniel.
a lot.
Me.
Daniel, you skunked us all in this game.
He did,
So
so it gets a bump for
I'm
that.
accidentally really good at this game. It seems. I have a 100% win record, kind of. We'll go into that. But yeah, I was gonna say asterisks. Yeah. So a couple final thoughts here is I just want to go over how nice this is. We've shown it off a lot. I'm sure you've seen some of it. Oh, and also by the way, we haven't mentioned it at all. There's a third production option you could do down here.
I
Yeah,
never-
It's mediocre.
Never
Less
used it.
optimal.
I'm the only one that used it in our second game,
That's 'cause
and
you
it's
had
because
to.
one of my abilities forced me to use it
Yeah.
in order to unlock
And that's
something.
the only reason I used it in the last game. we
Right.
played.
So this is like one of those things that you see in games before where it's like, if you have nothing else you can do, you can at least get resources and stuff from this, and that might
Correct.
help your future turn. If you're playing well, though, if you're using your ability to the best, you shouldn't need to do this,
Yeah,
right?
Not more than maybe
you'll learn
once
that.
or twice
yeah.
a game, maybe, but yeah.
But something I wanted to say here, it shows you, as these are all covered, it
Mm-hmm.
shows you which spots unlock the next ore production, right? Just really nice. Necessary,
Right.
not at all. And after like 2 plays, you'll have it memorized
Sure.
anyway,
Well,
right?
and they're all different
But-
too. So having it on there,
That's
is good
true,
for
I
changing
guess,
factions.
too.
And then plus it has the A and the B for your asymmetrical abilities.
That's another thing. The A and the B here links to where your asymmetric abilities are mentioning. This is mentioning this bar, so it's pointing to it. Super nice. I mean, it has your starting resources here for everyone, including the player order or production, and it very well describes, and some flavor text at the top for the thing too. This is a fantastic player board, and it's dual layer. And which we mentioned, this is the advanced one. The basics ones that are in the box just don't have the asymmetricness to them. I wanted to mention that. There was something else that I wanted to mention, but I think it was mentioned, which is why I forgot. So I'm going to go into my rating, right? This is a fantastic, well-made game. Like what Mike was saying, I tried 2 completely different strategies the 2 times that I played, and maybe a negative for some of you guys, my strategies at least, your asymmetric abilities really push you in a direction of what you should be doing. Like, listen to them if you're playing with those, right? So if you don't want that stress of being kind of pigeonholed into a strategy, maybe play the basic game first, because then everyone can do whatever they want. But the asymmetric ability is like, if you have an asymmetric ability that says like, hey, you get bonus X for colonizing, and you don't colonize the whole game, you are drastically hurting yourself, right? Like, this is one of those games for sure.
Just for the record, the basic ones, they are still asymmetrical, but only on the setup. There's no asymmetrical ability.
I was wondering about these.
The two that I grabbed are identical.
Okay, that's what I was mainly
I think
wondering
everything
about.
else gameplay-wise is identical. It's just you have an asymmetrical setup ability.
Okay. So the first time I tried pure colonizing, right? I still got to level 4 research, but it was not my goal. I was just able to kind of get there by the end of the game. But I was just like, let's colonize, let's get a bunch of planets. He beat me. His colonization was insane the first game. I was like, well, I can't do that. But like a lot of my points were from controlling planet stuff early game and stuff like that. And then this time, because I had the certain faction, you can see I did not have, I don't think I got a second ship on the board. I think my first ship that I started with wound up becoming, I colonized one planet, and I had 2 ships because they came off. I never put another one on after colonizing one planet, and everything was tech tree for me. That was my entire game. And it's cool that it didn't feel the same at all. I was able to do these different strategies and focus different techs. So that's a huge benefit for me. The other benefit, I know that it's already been mentioned, but I've been wanting to talk about this because it's my favorite part of the game, is how these techs line up and how this works. Like, you have the blue arrow. So advanced robotics is going to lead to a scientific discovery. So then it leads to X-alloy refinement and android surveyors. X-alloy refinement can can come from either scientific research or military research. They can both lead there, but once you have it, it's going to lead to military or whatever. Again, stuff sliding around here, as you can see. I think these were swapped and everything, but whatever. This is the biggest bonus of the game for sure, is how thematic you can follow these and see how it makes sense both forward and backward. And that's just, again, necessary? No. But the theme here and what it brings to the game, and again, we mentioned it, the way that the theme enhances ease of play. This game is very good at that, and I wanted to mention that. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm going to fall down on an 8.5. I agree with everything everyone has said. I was also going between an 8 and an 8.5. I guess my negative is that I was talking to Mike after our last game about this. It's not a game I would always be in the mood to play. This is a game that takes some heavy thinking. Fair. It's a bit crunchy, at least if you do the advanced mode. Basic is probably less crunchy, but I have a feeling it's still there. And yeah, it's definitely not going to be a game that I'm just like, oh man, I'm tired and I had a rough day and I had to do a bunch of, ordering at work today. Let's pull out Beyond the Sun. Nope.
It's a lot
I'm
to
not
keep
going to want to do
track
that.
of, like,
yeah.
to remember all of these without having to constantly recheck them.
Right. But yeah, so that's honestly my only real negative that maybe bumps it down from a 9, is that I'm not going to play it as often as other games, but I'm falling at an 8.5 and highly recommend trying this out if this is your kind of game, because it does it better than anything else I've seen.
Yeah.
So I have a confession to make.
Uh-oh.
I saw you playing this at JuliaCon.
Yeah.
I saw you playing this at a Meeple thing and setting it up. And I'm like, ugh. That looks ugly and complicated, and I don't know if I will ever mess with that. Then I hear from you, this is a really good game. My sister Julia texting me, hey, have you played Beyond the Sun? I'm like, no, but Bob loves it. And she's like, listen to Bob. He's right. It's really good.
Which is never said.
Which is never said. We sat down today to learn it. And now, to be honest, I haven't been able to play games in a while because of just vacation and a lot of stuff going on. And it's the first game I've gotten to play in a while that actually requires some real thinking. But I was just so excited to sit down and play a game. And I'm playing and I'm looking at the boards and I totally forgot about that. I thought it was ugly because I'm like, these boards all make sense.
Mm-hmm.
All of this goes to here, this goes to here, this goes to here. And I was thinking about it while you guys are talking and I'm looking at the cards, right? And I'm like, other games might have some more stylized art or something to go along with it, or even flavor text or anything. And I'm like, this doesn't need any of that. Right. This is all very direct. And I think for the level of complexity that is potentially there, I mean, your decisions can be very easy. But for the complexity that is there, if you want it, the directness is a benefit.
Sure. You're not distracted by fancy art.
Right, and that's fine too, right? The board itself looks nice, right? But when you've got all the cards out, right, and they're just white that silverish, like almost a metallic white kind of color. I don't find any of that appealing, but as I was playing, I didn't even care. I didn't even look at it or in that way. I was now like just focused on what everything does. So initially, at first glance, I was like, I don't know. Like, I guess I'll play it sometime. We'll just see what happens. And then today I was like, well, yeah, let's play it. Let's do it. I heard good things. Let's just get into it. And I just kind of was like, I'm going to push all that aside. I want to play a game. And I jumped in with both feet, and this game's amazing. I mean, it really is. I don't, again, and I always say, I don't care about art. And sometimes, though, it will, if a game looks ugly, I might be a little less inclined to initiate. Sure. Also looked kind of complex, right? And it's like, ugly and complex. But no, it's not. And it's not even ugly. Like, now that I played it, I'm like, I don't think this is ugly because this all is so functional, like that there is almost a beauty in how functional
Ugly
it
yet
is.
elegant.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it just works. Everything works. Everything makes sense. It does my favorite thing, like which we talked about earlier, is it works like you think it should.
Yeah.
And that is just, I don't care how complex a game it is, if it's intuitive, that is amazing. And that just makes even the really complex games, just very fun and relaxing for me and easy because it's all intuitive and it all just kind of works. And I get it. There's some days, right, where you've got a brain block and you can't even comprehend, right? And so if you've got a day where you've just been getting your butt kicked all day, maybe I'm not going to sit down and
sink your teeth into it
and try to grind one of these out. But this was so easy to learn. I could see teaching this being very easy, and there could be a lot of reading. For me, I kind of had my strategy, I did well enough. I came in second. I did not embarrass myself, and I was kind of winging it. And I even kind of changed up a few things that I was trying to do fairly early on, but a few turns in, and it wasn't so punishing, right, that I hadn't committed directly to like a single thing, a single tactic. So it wasn't so punishing that I even kind of like mixed around a little bit.
Since your first couple turns weren't optimal for your strategy.
Yeah. And I don't care because I don't have to optimize every single turn. I want to play a game. But yeah, at the same time, even though I wasn't maybe being the most optimal, like I just had a good time, felt like I was doing things well and accomplishing things. And again, for this being this gentleman's only game is amazing.
Yeah.
It is amazing. But this is a home run, man. This is an 8.5 for me. Like I sat down at this and it's like, maybe a 7, like just looking at it. I don't know if I feel like this. I just got back from 7 days at Disney and I had like 5 hours of sleep and I was still able to sit down and play this and feel really good about this. And so, yeah, man, I mean, just really good.
I wanted to say on that thing because none of us had mentioned it, so I just wanted to get my slight thing on there is like, while I agree that I wouldn't call the game pretty, right? I also wouldn't call it not pretty. And I actually think that the art, I mean, when I look at these, honestly, the first thing I thought was these are supposed to be like
a key card.
Yeah, like a key card kind of thing. Like that's what they're supposed to look like, and they have the tech on them, right? Like that's the first thing I thought of. So they were kind of thematically simple, is like how I looked at it. And even these with the events, like they kind of look like what you would see in like an alien movie, like an old computer with typing on it and stuff like that, right?
Well, it's all on theme,
right? Yeah, and
it's all on theme.
So yeah, I just think that. I kind of lean towards the word elegant with you, to where it's an art style that is just there to lay out the theme of the game in front of you.
That's why, like, that's what I get for judging a book by its cover, right? Because by walking by and knowing nothing with zero context, I was like, ugh, I don't know. Now I do love how the board is even laid out so you know what cards go where. I mean, sitting down and playing it, I was instantly like all of that was gone from my brain. And which is why that is not a negative, right? And just immediately ceased being a negative for me. So Bobby, where are we at?
All of our scores, you average them together. 8.6.
8.6. Good
so
job,
what happened?
Dennis.
What happened with that? Usually we average around a 7.
Well, I'm just saying
Whoops.
that's not how law of averages. It doesn't mean everything's going to be a 7.
yeah,
I mean,
sure.
that
If you
would
took them
still
and
make
averaged them together,
Yeah, it would still be a 7.
We better bump this down then.
Oh.
Well, and I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, if you score a 1 to 10, the average is not 7. Yeah, but we review games we like.
Yeah.
It's true.
Like most games are over 5.
I
Yeah.
could find some games on my shelf that I probably rated 2.
Right.
Why review that game?
Right, right.
Play something fun.
Yeah.
Beyond the Sun.
No, so Beyond the Sun, Rio Grande Games, I would say this has at least 2 printings, right?
Yes, first edition and second edition.
Don't go crazy like overpaying for this. Like find it for retail. It's on game shelves.
Yeah, go look at your FLGS because they're out there.
Yeah.
They're in the wild.
Find it there.
Yeah, just ask for it.
Just really good game. Really well made. Components are really nice.
Yeah, we didn't even mention the fantastic dice and everything.
The dice are really
The dice
good.
are very
Fantastic
cool.
These are-
You never
components.
roll
I'm
them.
rolling
They're
ore.
just like worker markers, right? You got
Yeah.
the chest on one side and the guy, and then your ship is at level 1, 2, 3, or 4.
And Bob pointed out, for anyone new to the game, the guy and the chest are the 2 on opposite sides, and then all the other 4 sides are the rotating ship.
Rotation ship, 1,
Fantastic.
2, 3, 4. Smart.
Man,
Wicked smart.
it's just really good, guys. It's just really, really
Yeah.
good.
Yep.
Solid game.
All right. For the board game rundown, I've been Tim,
I've been Bob.
I've been Mike.
And I was Dan.
and this was Beyond the Sun. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for checking out the Board Game Rundown. If you like what you saw, like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Share our videos on social media and spread the word. We publish new content weekly, including reviews, unboxing, and Let's Plays. And as always, thanks for watching.